Raid might sweep him.
Yeah, I mean, he was worried. He's got his own rogue, his warlock. They could both be weak to mage.
Yep.
He has got paladin and priest, but, you know, with the bans in as well, it's hard to know what's going on. We're going to get into game number 2 to see if Saiyan can begin that comeback and see what he has countered.
Yeah, and Samuel, okay, one up with the Paladin. That's no real surprise to me immediately. Paladin seems to be one of the big decks of the current performing meta, at least for the next few days before the nerfs.
And I believe that this is a matchup you're not particularly fond of. I think you got very close to rank 1 legend, and then you ran into a whole wall of priests.
Oh man, it's just priest after priest. And it's that boy right there, it's the Dusky boy, sat in JustSaiyan's hand, ready to just put an end to everything Samuel has. And Samuel's throwing away the Blessing of Kings. This I'm already really surprised to see, because that is the key card that sometimes allows the Paladin to win in this matchup. And luckily he got the second one, he got it back, but I don't like throwing that away at all.
So obviously we're all agreed that priest is favoured in this. How favoured does it feel to you in the real world when you're not?
When I was, you know, when I was playing against some of the best players in the world at 3 o'clock in the morning, clutching my head, maximum stress, trying to get rank 1 legend, it didn't feel good at all. But really, I reckon 60-40.
Oh, so fairly reasonable for the Paladin in terms of, you know, you're being countered, you've still got a decent chance.
And I think it's the worst matchup for the Paladin as well across the board.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That and maybe the Control Warlock as well. But if it can do this, you know, like hero power into Loot Hoarder. Loot Hoarder is one of the best cheaper minions to have, because at least when it gets destroyed, it fills up his hand a little bit more. And if he can get Blessing of Kings down before Duskbreaker, that's key. However, when it's Saiyan on the coin, that's not going to be easy to do.
Duskbreaker into the Twilight Drake is going to help him to maintain the board unless an equality comes down, which he obviously could.
Now things change a lot though. Samuel's picked up the vital call to arms, so JustSaiyan has to make the decision. Does he coin out Duskbreaker now, or does he wait until after Call to Arms? If he doesn't play Duskbreaker now, he gets the punish from the Blessing of Kings. So suddenly Samuel's in an okay position.
Picks up the second Twilight Drake though. That gives him another option to just put on the board the first one, which then keeps things nice and tight.
Right.
Gives him a way to clear the board with the Duskbreaker and still have a presence, which is always important.
So Samuel can now clear in a variety of different ways. He's got the Blessing of Kings, he's got the True Silver Champion he just picked up. He's got the Equality, which you mentioned a minute ago. Do you think that's something Samuel's going to be considering? I
mean, he's got so many times that he can use this, but he's got to think, what does this mean that this Drake's been played? I think he realised this means there's another dragon in hand for my opponent, because you don't just throw your dragons onto the board unless you're absolutely desperate as the priest.
Yeah, just things worked out nicely for JustSaiyan in the end there, because he's not in a position where he was facing down a huge ton of damage. You know, it hadn't been something like Hero Power, Plated Beetle, Knife Juggler, Hero Power or something. It was just a couple 1/1s on the board and 2/1s. So he had the time to develop this Twilight Drake, which has really shut down anything Samuel can do. And now JustSaiyan, I'd say the play is, oh, hang on a sec, I'd say it looks like a fairly obvious Twilight Drake, but he's just healing up there. What do you think that's about?
I mean, he wants to keep the Twilight Drake, so he's got the Dusky Boy back in his hand to clear up the board.
Of course.
But in the meantime, it does look like nothing's going on. But he's in, you know, the great thing with the Priest, obviously being the healing class, you have to force your opponent, you can force your opponent to put more stuff out there, or they just don't do any damage to you.
Light Fused Staggeredon is a card that could actually do some damage right now. If Samuel wanted to Hero Power play it, maybe get Death Rattle, that could be good. Divine Shield, that could be good as well.
Yeah, not a card you see all the time. We have seen some more dude build paladins around from time to time, but the Stegodon's certainly not something you'd associate always with it.
I really like this play. It's the vital Blessing of Kings I was talking about earlier. Saiyan has no easy way of clearing this. Yeah, he can Shadow Word Death the 5/5, but it's still got the 1/1 and the True Silver on the board, and Saiyan will still have nothing on the board, and then Call to Arms happens, and the aggression is starting to add up.
It is. He's got so much healing, though, Saiyan, in his hand with the double hem. So he's not dying anytime soon, but like you say, this aggression adding up, and, you know, the Avenging Wrath, the Call to Arms is going to be more pressure applied very shortly. I feel like Saiyan's a Pyromancer away from just winning easily here.
Right, and that's one of the big issues with this deck. With the Paladin in this matchup is that, yeah, Pyromancer on turn 2 with the coin can do so much damage leading into Duskbreaker. Saiyan didn't even need it because Samuel's early game was so weak. He didn't have 1 into 2 into Hero Power and 2, etc. He had to just Hero Power, Hero Power, Hero Power, and now Saiyan is just in this really healthy, safe position.
Yeah. it's horrible when you're the Paladin. You do all this attacking, you have the board, and you just haven't made an impact on the surface of the Priest at all.
Gen is nice. Gen is actually a really nicely shaped body for this matchup because, yeah, okay, well, the Priest usually only runs one Shadow of Death. That's gone now. How does Saiyan deal with this easily? Dustbreaker doesn't do it, you know? Psychic Scream can do it, but isn't worth it, and he doesn't have the mana yet.
Yeah, looking good, and obviously Saiyan doesn't have any answer at all. But it's also, I mean, it's menacing, but it's not like long-term disaster. This turn, though, is going to be difficult because of it. Maybe it's worse than I thought for Saiyan, actually.
Gen really makes it look that way, doesn't it? Again, if he plays the Twilight Drake, it's the same issue that you mentioned earlier. It means there's no dragon left in his hand, so Dustbreaker won't get its battle cry. Skulking Geist is the sort of obvious play just because the mana lines up, but it doesn't look good at all. It lines up so badly against Gen, and it also drops his
you've got to keep your shield. You're desperate for stuff as it is, and he's giving up on the Dustbreaker and just trusting that he will find more dragons.
That'll do.
Yeah, this is creative from Saiyan, basically going with, okay, I need to occupy the board, how do I do that? I need to get my Geist active, how do I do that? And what's the downside? I lose my Dustbreaker. Well, that can fix itself.
Right.
That's a thing that can be changed back once it's messed up. Whereas the others, if I play the Geist, it ruins my game. So, nice work out from Saiyan there to generate some sort of presence.
Interestingly, there is now a benefit for Samuel holding back this call to arms, because one of the worst things as the Paladin in this matchup is Psychic Scream. You lose all of your 1/1s on the board, and they fill out your deck. But if you've still got call to arms, then you can then thin it out again, if that makes sense. Because usually in the late game, the Paladin gets really good because the lower drops have been thinned out, and he can just draw the big stuff. But after Psychic Scream, that's not the case. Having call to arms still in the hand means that for Samuel, it still might be the case.
Well, Saiyan can mess around no more, and he doesn't need to, but he's got the Scream. But he has now got to take care of all of this.
Yeah. And it gets scary because of the existence of Avenging Wrath. There's just 8 burst damage to the face. Scream, great. Okay, the board's gone, but then True Silver comes in, JustSaiyan's at 10. Avenging Wrath comes in, JustSaiyan is at 2.
Yeah, you don't want to be at 2 against this particular deck. You can't really afford to go much below where Saiyan is now. Of course, he has got all that healing available in his hand, so it's actually fine. But the burst can just get you over 2 turns for decent amounts of damage.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame he's drawn both of these Divine Hymns as well, because it means Shadow Visions won't generate an additional Divine Hymn.
Sure.
I guess next turn he could play Holy Fire and Divine Hymn and then still have another one for later, but I'm really not seeing a play other than Psychic Scream this turn.
So that'll be saying, obviously, first glance play, I'm going to do that. Then he's got to work out, well, what's the worst reload I might have to face? And, I mean, Samuel's kept it back. He's going to give Saiyan the worst reload possible. Yeah. It's got, you know, the call to arms and perhaps the chain gang as well, especially as there may be knife jugglers come off that call to arms.
Yeah.
There's plenty can go on here. Saiyan knows that Samuel's been playing fairly reserved Hearthstone, but yeah, can't find an improvement, but spends a minute and 15 seconds looking for one.
It's just been a weird bluffing game, hasn't it? Like, I've got my call to arms in hand. You've probably got your Dustbreaker in hand. I'm not playing my call to arms until you play your Dustbreaker. Well, I'm not playing my Dustbreaker until you've played your call to arms. And both of those cards remain in the hand.
Yeah, except Saiyan's Dustbreaker currently does precisely nothing, but Samuel doesn't know that.
Incredibly relevant. Equality plus Avenging Wrath will be playable from this turn onwards.
Right.
And that's almost a guaranteed 6 burst damage.
Yeah.
Like, if JustSaiyan has 2 minions,
sure.
Yeah, it's 6.
Yeah, he'll find a way to get at least that much out of it.
And I guess Samuel just goes all in here.
I don't think he wants to. He's scared of that Dustbreaker. He hasn't seen it. Saiyan's been just throwing dragons out there like they don't matter, which means that surely the Dustbreaker must have an activator.
So maybe it's just the Ooze and the Hero Power rather than the Saranite? That's almost all in play?
It's so hard to know from where we're sat because we have full caster vision and Saiyan has played this beautifully that he doesn't actually need to play the Dustbreaker to some degree for the Dustbreaker to do stuff. He'd love to play it now, but it's actually done its work just by being bluffed. And you'll play the Ooze, apply lots of pressure.
That's not a dragon. Oh, Oh, this is a disaster for JustSaiyan.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Can he set up his own 2-turn lethal? Not quite. Because obviously he's got Divine Hymns to survive a little longer.
It's just not good enough. He can't Shadow Vision into just like a Scream. He doesn't have the mana.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big deal here, right? That's what we're not discussing, is if he could do that, he'd do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But he doesn't want to use the Shadow Vision to get Psychic Scream because he wants to do that next turn after he's dealt with this mess, and he is going to deal with this mess by just healing up, giving himself not only one more chance to draw a Dragon, but one more chance to draw Psychic Scream next turn off. Either Shadow Visions or just organically.
Okay, so S4mule has 14 damage this turn if he plays the Avenging Wrath, but I think Valanir is going to be an instant drop from him, especially with the Saronite Chain Gang in his hand. Although it's a little bit weak against Priest because, again, Psychic Scream and Master Spell both just destroy any of the benefit that the Saronite gets from the Valanir and the Valanir gets from the Saronite. It's still scary, and JustSaiyan doesn't have any of these answers in his hand just yet.
How many times in a row has S4mule pressed that hero power button? It's like every turn since like turn 3 or something.
I really like how he's playing this now. I wasn't sure about the mulligan at first, but yeah, okay, he's just milking his resources here. Here's another one you can't deal with. Here's another one you can't deal with. And again, the damage does add up over time.
Yeah, and the damage and the problems that your opponent has to deal with. S4mule's played sort of 2 or 3 Dreamhacks before, never had any particular success, but he is a player, he's like some first timer. Okay. Which we quite often bump into at Dreamhacks. A lot of people like to come along, try their luck at Dreamhacks. Yeah, I mean... You get it as part of your entry to the event, is an entry into a tournament, so... It could always be his big break. Anyone coming to Dreamhack, it could be their big break, as we just saw a Psychic Scream. But whoa, hold on a second. JustSaiyan, I believe that was a concede. But it's lethal anyway. Okay, so he conceded as soon as he saw so he saw the Scream, just a slight deep sink there, and S4mule 2-0 up.
I mean, like I said, I think it's 60-40, but as you said, that's not that bad a matchup as far as bad matchups go in Hearthstone. 2-0 against JustSaiyan is a pretty nice position to be in. Yeah, we're seeing everybody open up with their Paladin deck as the unbanned deck, and this is why, because when you do start getting through that Priest, you just got every chance to sweep, and Saiyan is left in the unenviable position of having to beat Paladin with Rogue. Yeah. I don't have the deck lists up in front of me here, but I'm going to take a wild guess and expect that this is a quest rogue. Yeah, this is not going to be much fun the large percentage of the time for Saiyan. Did you ever lose this matchup? When you yeah, it is winnable for the rogue, for sure. And this is a good hand to win the matchup. Double Glacial Shard and Vanish. These tools are vital for keeping the Paladin off of the board and just taking the time to complete the quest. When he completes the quest, he wants Vicious Scalehide to lifesteal all the health back up, and then he can win. However, S4mule has Call to Arms and a 2-3. Yeah. And now it's just a case of what he wants to do on turn 3. Do I want to play a Loot Hoarder, or do I want to be greedy than that? Yeah, funnily enough, I think that the worst nightmare for the Quest Rogue in this matchup is actually just Knife Juggler. You vanish away the board, Knife Juggler comes back down, Hero Power, that's 1 knife, Saronite Chain Gang, there's another 2 knives, you know. Right. That damage adds up very fast, which is why the Vicious Scalehide becomes so important later on. The problem with JustSaiyan's hand is that it's the type of hand where he could just run out of stuff. He's not got any Novice Engineer, no Refill, no Elven Minstrel, or anything like that. Yeah, no way of protecting the shards either. So I can see why he took so long with that mulligan, considering to himself, you know, do I throw one of these cards away? Do I want a Novice Engineer or some way of generating more value? Because, funnily enough, the Rogue can complete the quest in this matchup and then just lose 2 turns after pretty often. Coin Dagger here? Yeah. Picked up Sonya may change that, but Coin Dagger is often the play here. Yeah, it feels bad, but I think it's fine. If he just plays the quest, he takes 1 damage, but he can't keep up with the extra minion that's being played each turn. He's going with the quest. I think because picking up Sonya may have changed his mind. Okay. I think that's possible here. I mean, I've seen people Coin Dagger, and I've never seen it work. I've seen very strong players say that's the way forward a lot of the time. This is one of the matchups where we see the true power of the 2-3 body, though. It's the reason Direwolf Alphas have been thrown out for Amani Berserkers and plated Beetles. It's going to take Saiyan 3 hits of the dagger if he wants to kill that, and the Enrage just makes life even worse for him.
And he has got no bounce effects to protect these shards. He can throw one shard out there, but he can't throw the second one out. He can throw it out because he's not going to die. Okay.
This is so nice. Yeah, you're right. It just can't die. And Sonya comes down next turn and returns both of them.
Nice.
What is the worst Samuel can do? He's got no coin. He's only got 3 mana.
Yeah, I'd overlooked this entirely.
Knife Juggler Hero Power, I think, is the only way Samuel kills one, and even then it's just 1. This is a really nice start for JustSaiyan.
And this is why Saiyan play the quest on 1 not coin dagger, because he saw this coming. He knows that your opponent's going to play a 2-drop on 2, and he knows that this is going to happen because of the Sonya pickup.
Rank 25 Quest Rogue casters here.
You speak for yourself. I'm nowhere near that. 28, 29. So Sonya obviously makes sense.
Yeah, it's just coming straight down. He can even coin out another shard if he wants to. I wouldn't even mind trading into the Loot Hoarder and a 1-1 and then coining it out and freezing the Amani again.
It's also messy.
Yeah.
Because your opponent's playing Stegodons as well. So the dudes are important as well. It's making it a really difficult decision on each minion you want to kill.
Oh, that's why I didn't mind just freezing the Amani and dealing with 2 of the other minions, just going with the wide destruction.
For sure.
But Saiyan knows best, I am certain.
He's in the best position I've seen a Quest Rogue against a Paladin for some time.
Oh, yeah.
And he still looks like he's in a grim position. But can definitely turn this around, having all the stuff necessary to complete the quest and having a scale high backup. Can definitely win this game of Hearthstone.
The fact that Samuel can just trade away the Loot Hoarder, play Call to Arms to refill. Oh, he's running Dynasize, look at that.
Yeah, Dynasize sometimes instead of Lich King, I feel.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's alongside, but usually instead of.
With the Staggadon and the Dynasize, it's quite different to any of the Paladins that I'm particularly familiar with. But
Dynasize was really popular maybe 10 days ago.
But I was just saying to Cora, we were just having a chat while you guys were casting. I was saying I particularly like Dynasize. I think the burst damage it's capable of is really cool.
Whereas I actually went off it personally.
Really?
Because I found that the games I was winning with Dynasize were games I was going to win without Dynasize.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time it just got stranded in my hand in the games I was losing. But it's definitely right on the edge of being in the deck card, and a lot of people do still choose to play it. It's just not the favoured one at the moment.
So bad news, Lorinda, for JustSaiyan, is that 2 Knife Jugglers are on the board. And as I just said a minute ago, that's like the worst nightmare for Quest Rogue. Maybe he has to play the Scale Hide, dagger down one of the Knife Jugglers. That feels bad. There's 1 lifesteal minion, used up, gone, not bounced. It's just going to die now. And the other Knife Juggler is still just sitting there.
Yeah, this is really grim for Saiyan.
Despite the amazing Sonya start, it's not quite the same as a Stone Tusk Boar going in again and again and again, trading away the whole board.
Saiyan's showing in this game why he was the highest points earner in the Americas region in winter. Showing that in this particular game, he's looking like he's going to lose 3-0, but this actual game with the Rogue here, showing how he is actually putting up a fight against the Paladin is insane. But fight or no fight, things are starting to peter out for him.
JustSaiyan is just a monster. Like, he's been around for such a long time as well. He's one of the oldest Hearthstone players, I think, in the scene. And he's still, regularly at tour stops all over the world. I saw him in Thailand a while back, and now he's here in Europe.
It's good to see him in Europe. He used to come a little bit, then I think last year he may have stopped coming to Europe. Like I say, he went to 3 top 16s in the USA in a row for Dreamhack. But it's good to see him back. And on top form as well. We've seen him all season, I think. Was going well in the HCT as well until Race dumped him out, really, in round 3. That was on stream.
Wow, losing to one of the eventual winners.
Sure, I mean, it's always a consolation in your mind, at least.
Okay, there's a chance.
Okay.
So JustSaiyan is capable of completing but not activating the quest now if he wants to. Or he could coin out Vanish, which might be a necessary evil.
I think if you coin out Vanish, your opponent just plays all the stuff back down, you're back where you were.
After Vanish, it's Juggler, 1-drop, Hero Power.
You have to find an alternative solution, and I think the solution involves I'm going to top deck a Boar on turn 7. So you set up now for quest, like for Vanish on turn 6 into rush minions, Boars and Scale Hides on turn 7.
So it's Shard, Freeze, second shard, shadow step, freeze.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Just get rid of the ooze, the knife juggler, and the...
Try and sneak down your novice to draw the extra card, maybe get a mimic pod down, depending if you think you need that coin or not in the next couple of turns.
Well, okay, on one hand...
He is going for this.
Wow. I was going to say, on one hand, the more JustSaiyan puts on the board, the better, because it means the more 5/5s he can hit his opponent with next turn.
Right.
On the flip side, the more dies to Consecration.
So let's work out why he's gone with this route. He knows he's going to take a beating from a reloaded board, so he feels he can freeze enough stuff next turn to complete the quest, and then if he picks up, say, a prep,
Okay.
maybe he's okay.
Okay, yeah, prep would be a big deal. He could then even mimic pod or something if he drew prep. Maybe he has to play Novice Engineer next turn to try and get the preparation. Oh god, it's such a rough position. That
And there goes his charge from his
deckhand.
Yeah, they're off the table now.
Reporting for duty. Reporting for
So I want to see what Saiyan's plan is, but we may not, because he may be relying on a top deck we haven't thought of, but I want to see how his plan is for freezing this lot up, and he picks up the Scale Hide. Is it enough?
Amazing quest road card. Not going to do anything whatsoever in this position.
I hope you like my invention.
Unless that's a prep. No, it's a vanish.
Well, remember that S4mule can unfreeze his own minions with his Spellbreaker if he wants to. So a bit more push. But Saiyan has managed to complete the quest, and he has got Scale Hide in hand.
Okay, yep.
Not a lot else going for him at this point.
Does he freeze the face or freeze the 1/1 here?
I think he has to freeze next turn, because there'll be something even bigger to worry about. It's not a nice call. But if you freeze the 1/1 now, or the face now, yeah, then you have an extra 5/5 on board next turn.
Wow.
This is so tough.
It's so hard.
I mean, one of the best players in the entire world isn't sure what to do here.
I know we're pretty much only describing this game from JustSaiyan's perspective, but it's because...
It's the only side that matters.
For the even Paladin, it's like, yeah, okay, now I refill the board. It's Saiyan that's really playing the hard game here.
I mean, as the Paladin, it's a lot of thought goes into making sure you maximize it, but the reason we're not concentrating on, as Dan has just mentioned, is he's putting down a lot of damage and hitting Saiyan in the face with it, and he is putting a lot of work into making sure every last point counts, but the fascinating part is how Saiyan tries to fend that off.
Yeah. I feel as though Saiyan's going to have to start freezing the face soon, because weapons are going to be dealing in chunks of 4, and
reporting for duty.
that Scale Hide, I know I said it does absolutely nothing last turn, but this turn could make all the difference, especially if a second Shadow Step is drawn, or a Panda, or Zola the Gorgon, or something.
Prep. There's a lot of outs here for Saiyan to not die immediately.
Oh, prep would be good too, yeah.
But are any of them... I mean, he's got to get probably 2 hits in with his Scale Hide, and then he can possibly win the game. But look at S4mule's hand. He's done all this damage and kept himself some other options. He's got Dynasize next turn, for instance.
JustSaiyan down to 8 health now. But Dynasize has the potential of just ending the game on its own. So does Tarim.
Yeah, Argent Commander, if it's in there. Okay.
He's in the face. Backstab is a pretty good draw, but it's not good enough, is it?
Well, Quest Scale Hide will put Saiyan back out of death range. But like you say...
Dynasize still allows... Yeah, Dynasize still allows S4mule to get the... Oh no, because of the backstab as well, of course. So he's 1 off. 2 off. 2 off.
The problem Saiyan's going to have here is this Scale Hide can be silenced. And that's his second one.
Yeah, or just killed, right? And then it's gone.
Oh, if it's killed, you get another 5 health, so that's not so terrible. But if it's silenced and then never does the health, Saiyan's got to find 2 cards in his hand to do 30. It can be done. I mean, Quest Rogue is insane, but look at what S4mule's kept back.
Saiyan's having the other issue that I described earlier, where he's now just running out of stuff. Like, yeah, Mimic Pod could be a refill, or he could draw 2 preparations from it, which does absolutely nothing.
Yeah. And Rogue actually has this problem a lot in other matchups as well, but nowhere near, it doesn't expose itself to this degree in those other matchups.
Let me think.
S4mule has actually a lot of good plays here.
Right, and this is the thing, it's easy not to mess this up, but it's hard to play it correctly so you get the absolute maximum.
I really like Hero Power Tarim personally, because he can kill off the Scale Hide straight away.
Right.
That now only heals for 3. Dynasize is another good option, though. I don't mind this either. It's slightly weaker against Vanish, but wow, okay, Samuel's just going to go face with it. Ooh. It's pretty good.
Oh, interesting.
Vanish isn't quite as strong as it looks because the scale height can't charge into the face.
Right, but the face will be frozen,
Yeah.
and a wax elemental can get in the way of most
Yeah,
stuff.
just dumping down these 5/5s is great. I did prefer the Tyrant last turn to the
I mean, I preferred a lot of things to the Dynasize last turn. Because I felt you had to deal with the scale hide one way or another, however you chose to deal with it, because that's the only way that Saiyan's going to beat you here. He's not going to draw enough cards quickly enough, unless he's got Valera maybe to
turning
beat
it
you with
into a 3/3 and then killing it would have allowed Samuel to just win eventually, in theory. And then
Sure, yeah, if you did it that way, that's fine. You had to deal with it somehow.
Yeah.
I didn't care how. I just wanted it off the board. That's
Vanish
the second
doesn't
one.
do much against Tyrant at all. It's like, great, I can replay it again and reduce your next wave of 5/5s to 3.
Yeah, I mean, then you just whittle away with weapons and Avenging Wraths and all sorts of other nonsense and just kill them.
But now, as you said, like, Scale Hide's going to come back on the board next turn. It's got 5 attack, lifesteal, and rush still.
And he's hardly drawn any bounce effects. Like, Mimic Pod or Natural Draw into a bounce effect, that Scale Hide gains you 10, and this game goes insane.
Okay, well, oh, Mimic Pod, 2 Mimic Pods now. Okay, well, like I said, that can happen.
That's prep Mimic Pod isn't actually a disaster here. As long as the next draw isn't bad, but this draw isn't particularly good suddenly. Oh, that is grim.
No!
Saiyan has not run well for the last 10 matches of Hearthstone he played. The end of HCT plus today have not been fun for him, I don't think.
Oh, no. Okay, so it's Minion and Scale Hide into the 3/7, deals with that.
I mean, that's the player, yeah, it makes sense, but he just doesn't want to expose this Scale Hide. He's going to have to.
Wow,
Getting through, though.
Okay, he's done it this way around. I for some reason, I didn't think he was going to attack with the Wax Elemental. I thought he was just going to say, this is better against Silence, so makes a lot more sense. So 7 burst damage, or 7 face damage available for Samuel this turn. An extra 3 if he plays the Light Fuse Staggeredon. That's 10 face damage potentially available.
I wonder if that scared him enough to deal with this Scale Hide this turn. And he did have to kill it because silencing it just gets bounced, by the way, you were right before.
But again, just imagine if he did deal with it that
Yeah, I mean,
way.
it would be over. He's maintained his hand size and quality very well, so he just needed to deal with the last threat that Saiyan has. Okay, Valera was actually the last threat, but the realistic last threat.
What's Samuel thinking about here? Again, he's potentially, if he gets either attack or Wind Fury off of the Staggeredon, that would just be 3 off lethal. Oh, sorry, 2 off lethal. It would be 10 damage out of the 12.
Must move quickly.
Okay,
It's going to fill up the board. Both Vanishes are gone, so there is sound logic to doing this.
Divine Shield. And now Saiyan is in a world of hurt. He's got 2 draws.
There we go. The Scale Hide is finally...
Okay, that makes things difficult for Saiyan in the slightest. So
no health gain there.
I think Samuel learned from his potential mistake the first time around of not killing it off and just like, okay.
Oh! That's 16 damage. 16 damage with the Novice that can attack the Deckhand, the Bouncer, and the Dagger. 2 off lethal the other way around now. But can Saiyan prevent Samuel from getting lethal this turn? That is the big question.
Yeah, he's got 2 problems. He's got to work with what he can see and what he can't. And he knows that Samuel's been holding a lot of this stuff for a very long time.
Saiyan has to play the Deckhand and the Bouncer if he wants to remove enough damage, I think. Which, again, it means he's just sat with 2 preparations in his hand. Just really unfortunate.
Samuel doesn't know that, though. So that could be interesting.
That's true. But then it'll get to the point where Samuel, if he's hand tracking, will start to think, oh, he should know what one of them is because one came from a Mimic Pod.
Sure.
And the other one, he'll start to think, well, what other card wouldn't have been
I mean,
played?
it'll come to the point where he draws Avenging Wrath and the game ends.
Yeah.
Not because necessarily of lethal damage, although it probably is, but just because there's nothing left.
Avenging Wrath or Consecration right now would, or Sunky Patarum would also have been good, but...
4, 5, 6. That's it.
Oh, that's it. That's lethal. Oh my goodness. Blessing of Kings is that final chunk of 4 damage needed for S4mule to take the series with a convincing 3-0 sweep with his Paladin.
Yeah, into a good position again. I think it's probably his 3rd Dreamhack, might be his 4th, actually. Saiyan, a lot of work to do, losing in round 1, which this still is. Long round 1 today.
Wow.
Really messed up your tiebreakers, so Saiyan's going to have to go at least 7-2 and possibly even 8-1 to make that top 16 cut.
Yeah, it's not a good position for a known pro player to be in at this point whatsoever, just saying. He doesn't look too happy.
I'm not surprised.
So.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, he's had a long flight from America. He's one of the favourites for the event. And then he's got to have that long trip here yesterday with the train strike. And then he gets here and loses round 1-3-0. Bit of good news for you guys, though. We are going to have a 4th round 1 match for you. So we're going to just take a quick breather and we're back after this.